Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Stacy Nell, and I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. It's been a minute since I've done a lunch and learn, but here we are, a lunch and learn. I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled to be joined by Secretary Chris Kennedy, newly confirmed Secretary Chris Kennedy. He is the Secretary of the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Stacy. Good to be with you this morning.
Yes, yes. And it is, I know this is a lunch and learn, but we're recording it bright and early in the morning. So, just by way of introduction, I have put together a small bio for you. Let me read it for the peoples. Born in North St. Louis, Missouri, Secretary Kennedy was introduced to natural resources at a young age, having growing up shooting, hunting, boating, and fishing. A graduate of the University of Arkansas, Mr. Kennedy worked for the Missouri Department of Conservation for 28 years as, among other things, a fisheries biologist and a fisheries regional supervisor. His lengthy career has been dedicated to serving fish, forests, and wildlife throughout Missouri and now in Kansas. He has a focus on preserving natural resources, designing transformational organizational change, and promoting workforce inclusion. Throughout his career, he has demonstrated a passion for communicating, innovating, and leading. He is perhaps most well known for his work researching, managing, and restoring aquatic species, such as the alligator gar, which I know we will get to, while advancing opportunities for Missouri's youth to work with resource professionals and better manage public resources. Chris Kennedy has also been a guest on National Geographic Channel's Monsterfish and Animal Planet's River Monsters on episodes featuring the alligator gar. Mr. Kennedy has been acting secretary of the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks for over a year and was finally confirmed by the Kansas Senate last month. So, welcome.
That's a mouthful.
It was a lot. I was like, I was glad to put it all together. I went to a couple different sources and sort of pieced it all together. Now, the first question I always ask, although it's 9 in the morning, since it's a lunch and learn, what are your plans for lunch? What are you doing for lunch?
I'm still thinking about breakfast, Stacy. I mean, honestly, I think after this interview is done, I'm gonna go grab me an omelet
Okay.
and some hash browns, another cup of coffee.
Works for me. Works for me. I just had some oatmeal on my drive in today, so I had my little oatmeal packet. Okay, so now tell us about your background. I read a little bit about your background, but growing up, so how did you obviously you grew up an outdoorsman, but how did you really get involved in conservation work?
Well, it really started out. My dad raced boats and in St. Louis, not just in St. Louis, but really all over the world. And I got a chance to travel with him when I was much younger. I mean, it was a wonderful time in my life. And exposed me to a variety of different people, a variety of different resources, and not many bodies of water that I hadn't twinkled my toes in. And but I found myself as I was watching him go around in circles, wondering what was underneath the water. And I think that's what initially sparked my love for water. Just being around him. And besides that, he was also an avid hunter, fisherman. Both my grandfathers were too. And so I got plenty of experiences shooting, hunting. We did a lot of small game hunting, squirrel, rabbit. Not a whole lot of deer. I didn't really get into deer hunting until I got into college, but we also hunted quail. And we fished. Oh man, we fished hard. And so that was how I spent my youth. He was owned a construction company, and so as you can imagine, I went to work for him about 14, and he worked me like a dog. By the time I hit 18, 19, and was thinking about how do I want to spend the rest of my life and what I want to spend my career, I knew I didn't want to spend it in construction.
Right.
And sometimes when I think about the money, I think maybe I should have, but I certainly had a lot more fun and enjoyed, my career, in fisheries, and that was principally where I started as a fisheries biologist.
Okay. So now I am a complete layperson when it comes to all this stuff. I have camped. I have fished, and I was quite frankly surprised how much I enjoyed fishing because I thought I was going to be very squirmish about getting the and I went fishing and I was like, you know what? I think I kind of like this. But what is a fisheries biologist? As a layperson, like I don't know where these fish come from. Like I now know enough to know that, oh, these fish are they come from someplace. But tell us about even what is a fisheries biologist?
Well, a fisheries biologist is a person that manages fish communities and populations throughout the United States. You know, you've got two, you know, when you go down south, far down south and you get into Florida, you also have marine biologists. Well, I'm more of a warm water biologist, which means I focused on species that were more in the Midwest and southern United States, excluding saltwater species. And so, like, you have fish communities that reside in your rivers. We were responsible for managing those natural fish communities in the rivers. And then on the other side of that, you have fish species that anglers are really want to catch and enjoy catching. And it was part of our job to ensure that they had, you know, sport fisheries to catch. And most of that was in our reservoirs and lakes and ponds. Um, the beginning of my career, where I started actually working with landowners in southeast Missouri. And many of them had bodies of water, wanted to know how to manage them, and I would tell them how to appropriately manage their lakes, whether it was in regards to the fish community or the habitat within that body of water.
Hmm. Fascinating. These are just things I've never thought about, right? And like there are people like you who they make sure that the world keeps working and that there's still animals and fish. I'm like, I just take it for granted, but thank you for that. Okay, and so when did you get involved with the Missouri Department of well, obviously it was like 30 years ago, but how did you get involved with the Missouri Department of Conservation? And then tell us about your work throughout that.
I started actually, well, with Missouri in 1996. Seemed like so long ago.
You were 8 years old at the time, right?
Yes, I was. Yes, that's perfect. I was 8. But yeah, I started at a young age, right out of school. Started working with landowners. I started out as what they called a fisheries technician, and it was like the very bottom as a fisheries biologist. But you know, I quickly worked my way up to managing public resources like the Mississippi River, um, some of our smaller rivers, and even had a chance to manage some of our reservoirs in Missouri as well. Um, you know, managing fish populations is an awesome job, and I really enjoyed it. I was really passionate about it. But you know, you quickly, and most people get into this field because they like squeezing fish, or you know, they want to work with wildlife, or they like hugging trees. You know,
Uh-huh.
become oysters. But you quickly learn that if you truly want to manage any given species, you got to work with the people too. And so there is no managing our natural resources without working for people. And so, yeah, you know, I was listening in the introduction where I've spent my career managing fish, forest, wildlife, but the other side of that is also people. I have to engage people, make them aware of the wonderful resources that they have available to them, help them learn how to enjoy those resources, and ensure that, I mean, if they enjoy it, there's just a better chance that those resources will be around for my grandchildren, your
Right.
grandchildren.
Yeah, because I think you raise a good point. Like conservation of any species or habitat is going to involve people because we're the ones coming in destroying the habitats uh, that also then impact the species. So
We,
yeah, so
yeah, I think there's a balance we have to strike, right? I mean, we have to, you know, use our nation to do a lot of things, and hopefully natural resource management is one of those things. But and I think it's achievable to strike that balance between having a good economy and having good natural resources. We just have to include it into the formula for you know for how we want to live, you know, live our lives in society.
yeah, yes, I would agree with that. I've seen memes, for lack of a word, recently about this notion that like we everyone breathes air, everyone drinks water, everyone everyone enjoys the outside, and you can't drink oil, right? You can't you can't breathe natural gas fumes. Okay.
Well, it's even deeper than that. I mean, I think if we want to remain healthy,
Hmm.
it's been proven that engaging in outdoor activities and some of the sport and recreational opportunities that we try to promote, that has a big impact on your ability to handle stress, your ability to handle pain. It's also a good opportunity to develop memories. I know you said you have been fishing, you'll never forget it. I don't care how many fish, I was not there when you went fishing, but I guarantee you were smiling from ear to ear when you reel that fish in. And so there are very few things in this world, in my mind, that can bring a smile every time, for all of my life. Anytime I catch a fish, that same smile is on my
Yeah.
face. Um, and so I think it's not only, like a canary in the coal mine. If the species can't live here, then we aren't far behind.
Mhm.
But also, it is a part of us, being healthy and being able to cope with the challenges of life. I don't know how I would have coped without having natural resources at my access to exploit.
Thank you for that. And I think, I think this is a nice segue to bring up some of the controversy that was surrounding your appointment, mainly because I'm sort of cheating because I know you and I've had several conversations ahead of this. And so if I say your work in the DEI space at the Missouri Department of Conservation, I know that that actually is more tied to what you were just talking about, really, in terms of diversifying. Even I remember you said something about it's about diversifying. It's not just deer. It's fish. It's not just fish. It's the environment. It's not just the environment. Like even just thinking of broadening the thought of what does it mean to actually engage in conservation outside of anything that has to do with what someone on the street might think. So I just, I would be remiss to not bring it up, but what do you have to say about everything with your work with the Missouri Department of Conservation? Which, by the way, when I looked up your resume, was only 4 years out of a 28-year career, right? Like it was have been in the space for a minute. So okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it was just a short stint in my career, but as I mentioned earlier, in protecting natural resources, you have to engage the people, and that means all people. In the state of Missouri, they have a 1/8 of 1% sales tax that goes towards the conservation agency. And so everybody puts in on conservation in Missouri, every citizen. And at that time, our administration, at that time, our governor wanted to ensure that our services were available to all of its citizens. And that's, that was a big part of what was driving it. It wasn't necessarily revolving around uh, hiring practices. It was more about taking the good message of conservation and ensuring that it reached every ear inside of Missouri so that we can maintain support. It's how they maintain their funding, and so I'm very proud of that work that we did. It wasn't only about that either. There was an internal focus as well. Most people, when they think of diversity, their mind automatically goes to race, but we're diverse in all kind of ways. And for our agency, we've got a variety of disciplines that really drives conservation, uh, within Missouri and here in Kansas too. And it's important that those different disciplines work effectively across those divisions or those branches within the conservation agencies. And without it, scientists, you'll hear them talk about ecosystem management. And they're referring to the whole ecosystem, not just one species or one habitat type. And in order to do that effectively, effective ecosystem management, you've got to have all the disciplines there at the table.
Mhm.
And so it was about, reaching all of our citizens with the conservation message. It was about working as effectively as we could across our disciplines within the agency as well. Um, that's that's what our initiative in Missouri was about. It wasn't about hiring unqualified candidates. It wasn't about hiring people based on their protected class status. It was only about reaching out to all the citizens that we could in order to bolster our support for conservation and work effectively internally.
Well, that makes sense to me.
And it was all one other thing that I think resonated with a lot of individuals that I talked to in the legislature. Um, it's about mentorship.
Mhm.
Those are the individuals that are prepared to carry the torch in the future. You, me, all of our legislature, anybody in my mind that is successful, they've all had one good thing in common, and that's mentorship. And when I think back on I've had awesome mentors throughout my career, and they came in all different genders, colors. I've just had I'm not a self-made man, and I don't believe that there are self-made men or women. In order for us to achieve the things that we achieve, you've got to have good mentorship, and it comes from unexpected places, and it comes in a variety of different shapes and colors, and so I wanted to give that back, emphasize the importance of mentorship, not just for people that look like me, but all of us need it. All of us need that critical mentorship that makes us successful in life.
Well, I may be tapping you for a mentor for my younger child. My younger child, I don't know if it would be wildlife in Parker, it might be agriculture. She's decided that she wants to be a large animal veterinarian. And I'm like, okay.
Good
like,
stuff.
like, I don't know. Okay, I'll see what I can find out for you. But okay, so that was all Missouri. Now you're in Kansas. You've been here over a year. You were acting secretary, but you were doing the work, and now you're confirmed. So how has it gone? Like, what has been your approach here in Kansas? What do you like? I've got approaches, changes, growth, or development. Like, what's the lay of the land here in Kansas, and what are some of your goals or ideas moving forward?
Um, the first thing, and from an agency perspective, I wanted to make sure that we're fiscally sustainable. And when I say that, I'm talking about developing protocols and procedures that will allow this great agency to exist well out past me, past our governor, past you. And so that's been my, during my first 5 months here. Um, I wanted to figure out, where are we fiscally? How does that, how do we look, when we consider the future? Do we have enough staff to do the great work of conservation? Um, and are we procuring things, and the supplies that we need, according to state law? And so that was my first goal, and it's not a fun one. Fisheries is definitely funner, but this part is absolutely necessary. And so that's where a lot of my focus initially went. The other uh, areas that I've really been focusing on is engagement. How do we engage the public? Do Kansans know about all the services that we provide? Most of the times when I'm field a lot of complaints being in this position, and so you hear the negative all the time. And most times people, just want to talk about deer or fish, but the services that we provide is so much larger than that here in Kansas. You think about all the parks that we have. You think about all the people that just go out and do wildlife watching, or photography, and so hiking. There's so many services that we provide for Kansans. I want to make sure that they understand those services. I want our staff to do all that they can so that our citizens can appreciate those services, and hopefully give us the support that we need to move out into the future. Um, in Kansas, in Missouri, you heard me talk about that funding resource that they had. And we don't have that funding resource here in Kansas, and so
Yeah, you said that in Missouri it's a tax. Everyone pays it.
yeah, so like in Missouri, if you buy a pair of tennis shoes, 1/8 of 1% sales tax goes towards the conservation agency. It's a tax applied to any sporting good supplies, whether it be camping, baseball, basketball, doesn't matter. And that, has provided them with resources that allow them to do some amazing things. And their citizens since the 70s have supported that and continue to support that. They absolutely see the value And that particular agency made a promise to engage and to engage all of its citizens. And so here in Kansas, one of the main issues that we have is our infrastructure. A lot of our infrastructure was put into place back in the 60s and 70s, and are in need of repair or replacement. And I'm not big on shiny pennies. I'm not big on, oh, want to do the new thing. Right now, I want the public to know I'm focused on taking care of what we have. We've got some awesome parks. We've got some awesome public lands for the public to enjoy. I want to make sure that that infrastructure is in place, so that they can truly enjoy those areas and continue to enjoy them in the future. And so infrastructure has been a big focus within the agency. And I started, I think, earlier talking about engagement, and most of my conversation revolved around engaging with the public. But there's also engagement needed more engagement needed at the legislature, more engagement needed with other NGOs. And so when I speak of engagement, it's not just the public, it's not just the legislature, it's a variety of different groups and my hope is that we can bolster that support for the agency, and bring us the resources that we need so that we can continue to take care of the valuable natural resources that are here in Kansas.
That sounds great. Yeah, because Kansas, it's beautiful land, and there's lots out there.
There is a lot out there, and when you hear about Kansas, some people say it's all flat. Nothing could be further from the truth. It is a different habitat types than what you may see in other states, but we're beautiful and diverse nonetheless, and it's worth being explored. And that's part of the job, give people opportunities to explore the wonderful natural resources that are here in Kansas.
Well, you've inspired me. I have to go. I want to go hiking now. Okay,
And
so
hopefully
now,
fishing. You need another fish in your life.
and I was thinking as you were talking, I'm like, all my fishing experiences were in Missouri because I also used to live in St. Louis, and when I first moved to the Kansas City area, I lived on the Missouri side. So all of my camping and fishing that I've ever done has been in Missouri. So I have not camped nor have I fished in Kansas. I need to change that.
Yes, you need to change that. We have some wonderful fishing opportunities here in Kansas. I just went to Clinton Reservoir just a month ago, and man, caught some nice walleye that our biologists work hard to ensure that they're in the lakes, and I saw a lot of members of the public out there too. But there are, it's not just awesome deer hunting in Kansas. There's some awesome fishing opportunities here in Kansas as well. And so yeah, you got a lot to explore just right here in your own backyard. You need to get to work.
I'll do that. I'll do that. I promise. Now that yeah, I promise. Okay, and then the thing, honestly, I need the public to watch your face when you start to talk about the alligator gar. So I have to ask you about the alligator gar, and I've told people before, I'm like, you just gotta talk to them about it. You have to ask them the questions about it because in researching and sort of doing some reading and watching videos to get ready for this, yeah, alligator gars are interesting. They're interesting. They're huge. They are not pretty. They they're huge and not pretty. I mean, but they're huge. I just didn't know that they're fish that large in rivers. I don't think I may never swim in a river again, just knowing that
Oh no, they don't want anything to do with you.
Okay, so tell me about the alligator gar. First of all, how did you I'm going to say fall in love with this fish because it's clear that you have a passion for this fish. How did you start your work with the alligator gar? And tell us how that all went down.
I can't. I wish I could take sole credit for it, but once again, product of good mentorship. There was a biologist named Dr. William Layer he came from Milford, Kansas, and he's the one that really mentored me into the field of fisheries. And so I worked with him like good 5, 6 years before I went to Missouri. And he had us doing research projects, water quality, water quantity projects in Kansas, Arkansas, northern Louisiana. And we were down in northern Louisiana. And when we would sample fish communities, we would stretch these big nets across like the bayou. And then we would use our sampling electrofishing gear, and we would actually sample using electricity. We'd shock these fish, we'd weigh them, measure them, and take, look at body condition, take different measurements, and then we would release them right back. Well, this one day we were out sampling, we stretched our nets out, and a big storm came up. A storm that we got to get off the water. And so the storm came in, we got off the water, and we had to come back the next day to collect our nets. And we came back the next day. This net was probably 25, 30 yards in length. And so I'm on the front of the boat and I'm pulling this net back in. And I get almost to the end of it. And I look down at the water and we're moving. And so instead of me pulling the net is pulling me. Beautiful place. I'm on this bayou. This is a bayou called Bayou Bartholomew. Cypress trees, Spanish moss on the trees. I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful. And but this net is pulling me. And so me and another guy, we were like, oh, we got to get it in. We got to see what this is. Because, I mean, this net was full of water, heavy net, 16-foot boat. It's heavy, and we're being pulled upstream by what we don't even know what it is. And so we're pulling it. We finally get all the net in, and it just let go all of a sudden. And I got the net in, and we're like, oh, on it. We wish we would have found out. But then we saw an alligator gar come out of the water and porpoise right there at the surface. And then he went on downstream. We didn't catch him. But he was a good 250-pound alligator
See,
gar.
and that's the difference between you and me, because I mean, that was like something straight out of a horror movie where you're like, the net was pulling me, and then you're like, let's see what's in the net. I'd be like, let's go. You know what? It ain't that deep. I'm not
If,
sure.
well, I mean, if you don't want that, then you're not a fish biologist.
Okay, see,
I
there
mean,
we go.
that definitely attracted me, and it kind of made me want to learn more about the species itself.
And so your work was more in terms of even conservation of the alligator gar, because as you even mentioned at the top of this, you said that thing doesn't want anything to do with me. Like it's not
No,
after me.
no,
So
no.
so yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's what people thought, that because they look somewhat similar to an alligator, they thought that, alligator have the same voracious, attacking behaviors and appetite of an alligator, which is totally not true. They're more of a scavenger, very observant fish. They will eat a variety of things. They not only scavenge, they will eat things, that are alive, but they swallow their prey whole. So they're only looking for things that they can fit in their mouth whole. They can't fit people in their mouths whole. And so they look at their energy the way we look at our money. We want to go
Okay.
out to eat. We want to go to a nice restaurant, and we want to spend the least amount on that meal. They look at their energy the same way. They want to go out to eat, but they want to spend the least amount of energy that they have to in order to get their meal. And so they're not necessarily thinking about things that are their size that they have to fight to
Yeah.
finally eat. They're looking for things that they can swallow whole, capture and swallow whole, or they scavenge, scavenge a lot on dead critters. And
Well, they
so when
must
I
be
came to
doing well because
Missouri,
they're huge.
oh yeah, they are huge. But you think about like the big head carp in our rivers, the jumping carp that you may have heard about. Now that's a perfect prey item for an alligator gar. And so when I went to Missouri, I was looking at some of the same type of habitats that existed in northern Louisiana, and I was like, well, where are the alligator gar? Because they weren't
Mhm.
there. And I started researching, and I found out that people really hated this fish. It was probably the #1 hated fish in the United States. And there were major killing excursions where they just killed that fish indiscriminately wherever they found it. And they did that in a variety of states. And so, and it was all, they were judging the book by its cover.
Mhm.
They didn't take time to research it, to figure out, well, what is it really eating? Or how does it influence other fish communities? They just assumed and they ran with it. But as we did literature reviews and conducted our own research, we found that none of that was true. And they're not only not harmful to sport fish communities and other fish communities, they're actually helpful. And so they have a well-defined niche, especially in our river systems and our swamps, and they help other fish communities thrive.
I love it. I love it. Yes, I have learned more about the alligator gar in the last couple of days than I ever knew before. I didn't even know it existed. So,
Good for you.
thank you so much. We're actually coming up here on a half an hour, which is it always goes so fast. I do want to thank you so just so much for taking the time to talk to me. I know I was waiting to film this until you got confirmed, and so I was thrilled to see when you finally did get confirmed. You know, I went to or at least one of the hearings in person. I watched them all. I watched them all on computer. That's for darn sure. And I'm grateful that you're here. I look forward to seeing what you do for the fisheries and wildlife and conservation here in Kansas. And yes, you've inspired me. I do need to go fishing. I do need to go fishing in Kansas. You can suggest a place for me,
Absolutely.
and
We
I
can do
will I will go do that. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll put links to the Kansas Wildlife and Parks website or any links you think that people should know, read up on the alligator gar, any of these things. We'll make sure that I get that information out. And yeah, any closing words for you, Secretary Kennedy?
Oh, I just want to thank everybody for the support. I know that during confirmation, there was a variety of opinions, and I appreciate all sides. It's our job to work with everybody in Kansas, and I look forward to working with everybody in Kansas. And I just appreciate the support that the Kansans have provided me since I've gotten here. My neighbors are awesome. My coworkers are awesome. I have the privilege of working with really passionate people that they had the same passion about what they do every day that I had when I first started. And anytime you get in an environment and you're working around people that are passionate about the same things, it makes for good work. And so I just appreciate the opportunity. I really do. And look forward to serving people and continuing to serve fish, forest, and wildlife.
Thank you so much. All right. In that case, we will stop here. Bye everyone. Have a wonderful day.